Good evening and welcome to this Sunday special. We're going to have a look at the Fabians tonight, the Fabian Society. I think I'm going to start doing a little bit more streaming. Good evening, wee fat shug. Good to see you. I haven't seen you for ages, mate. Where the hell have you been? You've not been enjoying it. But hey, as I said, I think I'm going to start trying to do a stream maybe every night. The Fabians are experts. Yeah, well, I think they are experts, mate, really, to be true. But I think we'll dig into it. We will dig into it. Because, as you know, I'm not one that takes everything at face value. In fact, I don't take anything at face value. I like to explore it. Yo, Beats and Tapes, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. We're on both vertical and horizontal tonight. And I've done a bit of research into this. I've read some wacky stuff as well, really wacky stuff. But I tell you what, let's go back. Let's go back to the, and of course it all goes back to Scotland, doesn't it? So yeah, the guy that really kicked it off. Well, he didn't kick it off, but there was a Scottish guy. I think, what was his name? Was it Thomas Davidson? And he had this new freedom movement or whatever, and he was trying to get in touch with himself, you know, and it was all about looking inward and bettering yourself, and the Fabian Society is an offshoot of that, in that the people that wanted to actually effect change in society rather than effect change in themselves formed the Fabian Society. And they decided to name it after Quintus. Let me see where. They decided to name it after. In fact, we'll come back to that. So it all started with a Scotsman, as most inventions do. But right, so what we're going to do? I've got a little script. Well, I'm not going to read the script. I'm just going to use it to keep us on the straight and narrow, as they say. So tonight we're doing something that, and I don't know why, but maybe I picked up on it subconsciously, because since I decided to do this round about, I think it was probably round about Saturday morning, I've seen nothing but Fabian Society stuff. Nothing but, and everybody keeps talking about it. So we'll dig into it. And you know what? Before you actually say it, and Doug's probably halfway there already, they're running the government. Well, you're not entirely wrong there. But we'll get to that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat this like a proper investigation tonight, and seeing if I can change things up a little. I think we've got this chat on screen. So we'll see how that goes. You can see that. So we've got chat on screen for both the, what would you call it? For both the horizontal and vertical. Bloody hell. Yeah, Keith is. Keith, well, we'll come to the cabinet. Most of the cabinet are Fabians, I think. Oh, there goes the phone. That's unusual, because that phone's not connected to anything. That's a strange one. Right, anyway, enough of this freaking nonsense. Lucky Charms, good to see you. I don't think I've seen you before, have I? Oh no, I must have. You're a moderator. Bloody hell. You got a new name. Who is that? That's someone I know. If you're a moderator, you must be someone I know. Anyway, right. Where was I? Where the hell was I? Yeah, we're going to treat it as a proper investigation. Let's see if I can get the slides working, because they're not slides tonight. It's an image slideshow in OBS. Yes, there we go. So we're going to treat it as a proper investigation, right? We've got 140 years of evidence to wade through here. We've got conspiracy theories ranging from mild to the absolutely freaking mental. And Labour, as you know, won the last election, and guess how many Fabians are now running the country? The numbers might make your head spin. So, you want to? Oh, it's David. That's what I thought it might be, David, especially when I saw the shamrock there. Drop it in the chat, your wildest Fabian conspiracy theory. Secret communist cabal? World government? Lizard people? Let's see. You tell me. What are we working with? I'm going to try and do a bit of interaction tonight. See how it goes. Right. So back to who started it all and who they named it after. They named it after Quintus Fabius Maximus the Cunctator. Cunctator means the delayer, I believe, in Latin. I did take Latin at school, but only for a couple of years, so I can't remember much of it. But this guy was quite famous for sitting back and watching and waiting rather than striking with pure aggression. So he would sit back and wait, and then he would jump on them and hammer them at the end. You know, when the time was right, he would strike hard. And that's what the Fabians have modelled themselves on, that approach, you know. And we've all heard of the long march through the institutions, you know, that Marx and the Marxist ideology, get them while they're young in the colleges and things. And I think this is a communist, leftist, Marxist ideology. And the Fabians are from the left, so that's going to apply to them as much as anyone else. So we fact Shug's jumping ahead here. He says it's a satanic cabal. Well, okay, but you have to believe in Satanism actually makes a difference. I mean, I know there are Satanists, but many Satanists would say that they're the good guys. But anyway, let's crack on. So yeah, they would he would strike hard. So yeah, when I strike hard, but he's a tortoise because he just waits and watches for everything to happen. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Labour won the 2024 election, and if you're worried about Fabian influence in the government, well, you might want to sit down. Because Prime Minister Keir Starmer, yes, Keir Starmer is of Fabian. In fact, he was, I think he's the chair of the Fabian Committee, you know, in the Society for some time as well. I think it's quite obvious that they are well in control. And the Fabian Society, as you see here, was founded in 1884. So they've been around for a while. But how did that, you know, what was it? What was it that really started? That's the thing. Because, you know, they saw themselves as like the elite sitting in salons and discussing the state of the world and how they could make it better and make it more equal and things like that. So that's kind of where it came from. And we talked about Thomas Davidson, who was looking inward and trying to better himself, but the other people in the group, or you know, some people from the group, formed the offshoot that then became the Fabian Society. So Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Fabian member, Angela Raymer, David Lammy, Cooper. I think most of them, at least half the cabinet are Fabians. There's 149 MPs in the current government that are Fabian members. Every single Labour Prime Minister has been a member of the Fabian Society. Every single one. That just shows you how well entrenched into the Labour Party the Fabian Society indeed is. So there's more Fabians in government now than there are Conservative MPs in total. Over half the cabinet are Fabian members, and all the great offices of state are filled by Fabians. So, is anyone surprised by these numbers? Because, you know, and I see this a lot. I see people saying it's a secret society. For a secret society, it's pretty fucking open. I've got to give them that. They don't hide. They don't hide unless you call hiding in plain sight hiding. So But what really annoys the conspiracy theorists, I think, is the Fabian Society has been completely open about it. And they've been completely open about the amount of people they have in government and the amount of people in the cabinet. And they always have been. After 45, when they had a Labour landslide, I think 249 members of the then ruling Labour Party were Fabians. So they're really quite proud about it. And they've been on LinkedIn posting about it, celebrating with the 141 Fabians entering Parliament for every corner of the country. Brilliant Fabians will be shaping the future of the left in Parliament. And if you look at it from an evidence point of view, it's not secretive behaviour. They don't seem to be hiding anything. It does seem to be out there in plain sight. Scotland has its own Fabians. There are Fabians in Scotland as well. I'm going the wrong way in my slides. As I said, Keir Starmer. Fabians produce lots of literature. It's all out there. They have conferences. You can buy a ticket. You can join the Fabian Society. You literally go along to their website and fill in the form. And if you meet the criteria, which is you need to be either a Labour supporter or closely affiliated to Labour, you can join up. You know, there's no barrier to entry unless you're like a raging Tory. They've been doing this since the early 1800s or the late 1800s. So they've been doing it for a long time. The Fabian Society founded the Labour Party. So they've maintained their influence in that party as such. They founded the London School of Economics, which is still going and is a prestigious university these days. So it's probably ripe pickings for them to generate members from that fine institution. Or not, if you want to decry it, I don't know. The New Statesman, the magazine, was founded by the Fabians as well. The London School of Economics, Freshers Week, and then the New Statesman. That magazine's from what, the early 1900s, 1914, something like that, just after the war, just during the war. George Bernard Shaw was a Fabian as well, of course, David, yep. So Scottish Labour's been rebuilding, and guess what? Scottish Fabians are part of that. They've got their own branch, their own activities. They've got... what's happened there? Where's my Scottish Labour picture gone? Oh, it's disappeared. Right, anyway, enough of that didn't work terribly well because I can't see what's coming next, which is a bit of a problem for me. So I shall probably go back to my old-fashioned way of doing the slides. So let's go back. Let's go full screen, shall we? Golden Age is a satanic term. Trump uses it a lot. He's like, look, mate, and to be fair, you can pretty much say anything satanic, you know, if you want, because it's one of these things that tends to be quite irrefutable. But let's not fall out about it. Where were we? They're not hiding their influence in Scottish politics. That's true. They are not. They are, and let's think about it. What is a successful political organisation? Because that seems to be what the Fabian Society actually is. You know, they don't appear to be secret puppet masters. They just seem to be really good at the boring work of producing policy, interacting with people, encouraging people, recruiting members, and getting their views across. And is that not what politics is? I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me, but is that not what political parties do? mean, people join the Labour Party, people are joining this new advanced party right now. What is that? Because they're attracted to people who are like-minded. And the Fabian Society, which isn't a huge organisation, you know, it's 7,000 people. So it's not huge, but it's quite influential in the Labour Party, and obviously many of the MPs and indeed the Cabinet are keen and have been keen and productive members of the Fabian Society. So what is it that the Fabian Society actually wants? What's their priorities in 2025? Well, if we're to be believed, right, what these people are wanting to do is allegedly world control. Socialists are actually pushing for it in 2025. They've organised the current priorities around 4 main themes. First up, politics and power. They're talking about electoral reform, democratic participation and constitutional change. Then the state and society, welfare state reform, social care crisis, and public service delivery. On the economy and work front, they're focused on economic inequality, the future of work and industrial strategy. And finally, they are, as we know, in the green and global issues of climate resilience and the UK's international role. So the recent reports have included the poverty premium, about how being poor costs more money, and climate resilience is about preparing for climate change. Standard progressive policy development, really. And let's be honest, being poor does cost you more. You know, if you're poor and you have a poorer credit rating, you pay a higher interest rate than people that have a better credit rating. So the people less able to pay for something have to pay more for it. That doesn't sound right, does it? By any stretch of the imagination, in any political forum, in my view. I don't know what you guys think. I'm not thinking about joining the Fabian Society, beats and tapes. But when you look into it, you've got to look at it from an evidential point of view. And I mean, I read an article today and it started off with, I can only describe it as a diatribe of complete and utter shite, right? It said all these things about Fabians and then failed completely to back up any of the claims that were made. So if you're going to claim that people are such and such and such and such and such and such, yeah, you need to give me some evidence for me to believe that. And it's fine if you want to believe that, but what we're then talking about isn't facts and data. What we're talking about is a belief system, and we might as well be discussing religion at that point, because it's not going to make any difference. Because you won't change someone's belief system with facts and data. You'll change how they think about things, but if they're entrenched in the case so much so that they believe these things are real, then it won't matter how much you throw at them, because cognitive dissonance is a very real thing. Observable facts are available to anyone, but what do you term observable facts, wee fat shug? What do you mean by that? Show me something that proves Fabian Society's satanic, for instance, because you've called them out as satanic earlier. So you should have some evidence to back that up. Right, okay. So then point me to the direction of an observation that would back up the fact that the Fabian Society is satanic. And I'll quite happily say, yeah, they're satanic. But until I've got evidence, I can't state that. I'm not gonna go into that at the moment. Wee fat shug. Where was it? focused the recent reports. Yeah. So when you've listened to what I've said so far, and you have to ask yourself, does this sound like an organisation that's a global conspiracy? I mean, does it really? Tell me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm the one looking at what actually is available as observable facts, and I'm not finding anything. Because if someone drives down a mall in a golded carriage, that doesn't mean they're Satan, does it? Is that not just part of Britain's long and rich tradition of royalty? I don't think you're alone at all, mate. I really don't. And that's the problem. That is the problem. So, the Scottish Fabians have been particularly focused on devolution issues, independence questions, and how progressive policies work within Scotland's political framework. Not exactly shadowy world government stuff, and it's not. It's almost certainly what the SNP is looking at as well. The Greens to a degree. Scottish Labour tends to be a slightly more unionist, though. I think what they're doing is they're responding to to get the vote, you're going to need to attract people from both sides of that fence. So, as I said here, if it's world domination, it's the most boring world domination plot in history. So if the Fabians are so powerful and influential, what about the other side? What about the competition? What about the right and the centrist parties like the Liberal Democrats, for instance? And we have to think about that, because if we look at the Conservatives, especially the big players, you've got Policy Exchange, which is a think tank, founded in 2002 by Nicholas Bowles, Michael Gove and Francis Maud. It's now the UK's largest conservative think tank, and it's had serious influence. Gove, Patel and Braverman all have connections in here. But the key difference is it's funded completely by corporate donations, not democratic membership, because the Fabian Society is composed of members who pay a fee to be members, and they all have voting rights. Nobody gets into a government think tank, a conservative think tank, unless you're invited. You can't go to their page and apply to be in their government think tank. You can't pay a membership fee and join up. You have to be selected and invited. So which one's more secretive? You tell me. Corporatism? Then there's the Centre for Policy Study, founded in 1974 by Margaret Thatcher and Keith Joseph. This was Thatcher's intellectual powerhouse. They provided the theoretical framework for privatisation, deregulation and tax reform throughout the 1980s. Again, though, it operates as a traditional think tank. It's funded completely by corporate donations, and it doesn't have individual members paying and voting on its policies and its leadership. So these are intrinsically closed shops. They're not democratic organisations. These are fine words you're putting out, wee fat shug, but they're in that realm of things that can't be disproven, but also can't be proven, so it's a tricky area, because people that come up with things like that, you can't argue against them, because then it's almost like this grand unifying theory of conspiracy, because you get to the point where You can't refute it, because if you refute it, even with data, what happens is that gets taken in and shown to be part of the conspiracy. So not everything is a conspiracy. If you think it is, you may need help. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean, seriously, not everything is a conspiracy. And you can go too far down that route. You can go into that rabbit hole so deep that you get to the point where everything becomes a conspiracy. And you really don't want to be there. You want to be able to step back and go, well, let's look at this logically, you know? Logically, who's to gain from this? What's going to happen? You know, who would benefit? It's like, and I hate to mention it, but it's things like chemtrails, right? If they are spraying the country, they're spraying themselves. Just think about it. They're spraying themselves. You want to run the country down? You want to ruin the country? Who benefits? Who really benefits? You won't get many people building your, frigates and battleships or luxury yachts if there's no country to do it. So you've got to be a bit logical about these things. So the Institute of Economic Affairs, that goes back even further, 1955, founded by Anthony Fisher, with guidance from Friedrich Hayek. These folks pioneered the modern think tank model in Britain and introduced monetarist economic theory to British audiences. But they operated as an educational charity with academic fellowships, not a political membership organisation. Sneaky little buggers there, huh? Anyone in the chat familiar with these organisations? Had any interactions with them? Know anything about them? Seen any of their products? Because they don't tend to be publishing, regular magazines that they send out to their members every week or month or whatever. So I'm not quite sure. Then there's Onward, which calls itself the UK's leading centre-right think tank and promotes compassionate conservatism. It's a professional research organisation, but again, no mass membership structure. You can't join it, you need to be invited. The Liberal side, you've got Bright Blue, a liberal conservative think tank with about 1,000 members, which is much smaller than Fabian's. Indeed it is. And then there's the Social Liberal Forum within the Liberal Democrats, which operates more like the Fabian model because it does have democratic governance and annual conferences, but their influence is limited because, well, the Lib Dems, let's face it, are limited themselves because they've struggled to get any members in Parliament, so they're limited electorally. Then you've got cross-party think tanks. You've got think tanks like Demos, founded in 1993, tried to move beyond traditional left-right divisions. The Resolution Foundation focuses on economic analysis with emphasis on living standards. There's even a brand new one, the Future Governance Forum, launched in 2025, focusing on fixing broken government. That sounds quite interesting. Now, what's really interesting from a historical perspective is the Conservatives actually did have their own mass membership organisation once, called the Primrose League. That was founded in 1883, just before the Fabian Society, and that was to honour Benjamin Disraeli. At its peak, it claimed over 2 million members. That's bigger than the Fabians have ever been or ever got. But it declined after World War I, and nothing has replaced it since. So anyone know of conservative organisations with the same kind of membership and influence as the Fabians? I mean, even when you think about it, the 1922 committee, when they elected Liz Truss by polling the membership of the Conservative Party, they didn't when they replaced her with Rishi Sunak. So none of your Conservative members got a say in him being the Prime Minister. That was all done within the committee itself, so democracy went out the window there. So the key difference, hi Jaden on the hi, sorry. on the vertical chat. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Good to see you. So the key difference is none of the organisations replicate the Fabian model of a large democratic membership. 140 years of sustained influence. You can't take that away. They've been there for 140 years. Direct integration with a major political party and institutional legacy, like the London School of Economics, which is a major university, and the New Statesman magazine, which, regardless of what you think of it, is, you know, a legacy publication that has had some renown in its days. Fabians are unique because socialist movements emphasise collective organisation and democratic participation, while conservative movements typically rely on professional expertise and private funding. And that's true. It's generally true, right? And the thing is, what I think, and this is just my opinion, which means nothing in real terms, but my opinion would be that you need a degree of cross-pollination between these two ideologies, because you can't be just right or just left, or people are going to be left behind, or people are going to be hurt. You know, because if you look at what's happening just now, anyone that's got any kind of business or making any kind of serious money is likely to be hurt quite substantially by Labour Party policies, which are, by extension, Fabian Society policies, because they have a big say in how the Labour Party does its policies. But is that not what a think tank does? But if we had a Tory, if we had a fully Tory right-wing party, then people would also be hurt, because a lot of people would be left to get on with their own devices. And yeah, if you're an entrepreneur type, then you're probably going to do better under a Tory capitalist government regime than you would under a socialist. But I think there's room for both, isn't there, to a degree? I think the problem is we get too tied up in either side, and we don't stand back and go, well, yeah, okay, that's a fair point, Maybe we do need to house our homeless veterans, because nobody does it. The Labour Party aren't doing it, and the Tories didn't. So who's looking out for these guys? Because there's no financial incentive for a right-wing corporate party to house homeless people. And there's no real incentive for down-and-out socialists to house people who aren't productive members of their society as they see it, because they don't vote for them. So you're fucked. You're a homeless veteran. You're fucked. Nobody's got your back, which is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. So, right, let's get into the proper conspiracy theories. Right, let's start with the reasonable stuff. There are legitimate concerns about think tank influence on democracy, elite networking and access, unelected advisors shaping policy. These are all fair questions, and they apply to all think tanks, not just the Fabians. And then we've got the historical problems that have plagued, especially the Fabians, which is such a long-running society. And they've been actually documented. The early Fabians did support eugenics, did have imperial attitudes typical of the era. And they were predominantly elite middle-class intellectuals. Not many of them were. In fact, I doubt any of them were representative of the working man of that era. And there's someone else that really doesn't get a lot of say, the working man of the era, whatever era you tend to be in. And then we've got things like the Milner-Fabian conspiracy territory, and this is where things start to get a little bit on the extreme side. According to these theories, the Fabians orchestrated the Russian Communist Revolution, both world wars, the creation of the UN, EU, Council on Foreign Relations, that's the American one, and global banking control. The Milner-Fabian conspiracy. It's mostly guilt by association and selective quotation. If you actually dig into it, there isn't an awful lot of evidence there that would implicate the Fabians in any of these things. If you're running world events, why did people that are running world events allow things to happen that they didn't want to happen then? Because the Fabians were massively pro-EU. They didn't want Brexit. They didn't want anything like Brexit. So why did Labour lose elections for 14 years straight? Maybe democracy works to a degree. If you were secretly controlling world politics, wouldn't you do a better job? Would you not? And then we can go on to, and I'm sorry, but I have to call it out because it is full tinfoil hat stuff. Secret world government. Communist takeover of capitalism. Population control schemes. Population's on a knife edge at the moment. Population collapse is the big problem and nobody's picking up on it. None of these think tanks have picked up on it. Population collapse is going to be our undoing. New World Order. Where's the evidence? Where's the annual report and the live streamed meetings? Because the Fabians do that. They do annual reports, they live stream their meetings. They have open conferences. They post things on LinkedIn. It's hard for me to accept that this is a secret society that has an influential effect on world affairs. Really. Anybody get any really wild ones? No? I appreciate I might be disappointing some of you guys by taking such a reasonable stance. But the problem is, I need actual evidence. And I'm not getting any. Because there isn't any there. That's the problem. It's like UFOs. You can tell me till you're blue in the face that you've been abducted and anally probed every night for the last 16 years. But until I see it happen, or you give me irrefutable evidence that it did, I'm really struggling to believe you. And the same goes for these things, because there's no real evidence that the Fabian Society is anything other than a government. It's not even a government, it's a political think tank. That, yeah, at the moment is feeding the government because half the government were in it or are in it. That's good organisation. That's doing a great job in the long march through the institutions. And yeah, I might not like it, but you got to give them credit for it. So this is the thing. How they've gained influence is completely mundane. There's no secret handshakes, no mysterious funding, no shadowy meetings in underground layers. Their methods are completely transparent and frankly, they're quite boring. They've spent 140 years producing research and publications, policy papers, reports, books. They've built institutions like the London School of Economics, the New Statesman. So the LSE was founded in 1895, the New Statesman was 1913. I was wrong, I was a year out. They helped found the Labour Party in 1900. They maintained political networking where every Labour Prime Minister has been a Fabian. Everyone. They run training and development programmes through the Young Fabians and the Women's Network mentoring programmes. And they actually practice democratic participation with over 7,000 members voting on things. So, where's the secret society? Where is it? So what does this success look like? The LSE became a world-renowned university. The New Statesman is still a major political magazine. The NHS was based on Fabian policy proposals. The minimum wage came from Fabian research influence. And I think the minimum wage is a fucking disaster for small business. It really is. Because you can't keep upping the wage without gouging your customers, and eventually your customers just walk away. So you get two versions. The conspiracy theory version says a secret cabal meets in shadows, pulls strings and controls world events. The boring reality version is that academics write papers, politicians read papers, and policies get implemented gradually over decades through completely normal democratic processes. What's more believable? I mean, seriously, what is more believable? It's a secret society, says Beats. Yeah, well, it's not though, is it? I mean, if it was secret, they wouldn't even tell you it was there. I mean, I've no doubt there are secret societies out there, but they keep themselves to themselves and they don't tell people. I mean, I think the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I think maybe that might be a different ball game. That's not democratic. That's not, you can't go on their webpage and sign up to be a member of their board, can you? So yeah, it's tricky. And it appears to me that the Fabians have become successful because they've mastered the unglamorous work of democratic politics. Research, institution building, networking, and patient persuasion. It's not exciting, it's not secret, but it's incredibly effective. And especially over long periods of time. And, you know, although it's boring, it works. And it's all very well to sit back and go, yeah, you're talking shite. They are a secret society. They're trying to run everything down. But, you know, in 5 or 10 years' time, when we have a different government of a different ilk and the same things are happening, right? Who are you blaming then? Because it won't be the Fabians if the Tories are in control. Well, will it? Who are you blaming then? So the Scottish Fabians have members on both sides of the independence debate. There's no unified position on Scottish independence within the organisation. They're more focused on progressive policies within the current system, with some supporting further devolution and others preferring the union as it stands. After the 2024 election, Scottish Labour showed signs of recovery, with Fabian members elected in Scottish constituencies. Scottish Government remains SNP, but Labour influence is growing again after years in the wilderness. I don't know, do you see Labour as ever being in a position to take on the SNP again? Really? I don't know. It's worth noting that the SNP has never developed anything quite like the Fabian Society, a mass membership think tank with deep institutional connections. You think? I think the problem with the SNP is they have never developed anything. They seem to be a knee-jerk organisation that just responds, usually in the wrong way, to what's going on in the world or the country around them. The SNP are a lost cause, in my view. So, conclusions. So after going through the 140 years of evidence or history, we conclude that, yeah, the Fabians are influential. They've got 141 MPs in current Parliament. Half the cabinet are members. The Prime Minister is a Fabian. The Deputy Prime Minister is a Fabian. David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, is a Fabian. What's her name? Reeves is a Fabian. But they don't appear to be a secret conspiracy. They've had 140 years of sustained political impact. That's a fact. They operate with what appears to be complete transparency. They publish accounts. They post openly. You know exactly where they are. They have websites. You can go and apply to join. If you can't become a full member because of you don't quite fulfill the criteria, maybe something with your politics, you can still become an associate member. They have democratic membership structures. They have open meetings. They're completely upfront about their political objectives. And when you're publishing books called Fabian Essays in Socialism and celebrating your election victories on LinkedIn, you're not exactly operating in the shadows, are you? Really? And what's kind of fascinating is the comparison with conservative alternatives. The right's plenty of think tanks. Policy Exchange, Centre for Political Studies, Institute of Economic Affairs, Onward. None of them have replicated the Fabian model. None of them are democratically elected. They're all professional organisations funded by corporate donations, not mass membership democracies. That tells us something important about different political traditions. Socialist movements naturally emphasise collective organisation and demographic participation. Well, they do. I mean, even communism emphasises that to a degree. And yeah, I know communism's a different ballgame altogether, but when you even look at China these days, you've got to see that there is some weakening in the traditional communist approach. Conservative and liberal movements place greater emphasis on individual initiative and market mechanisms, leading to different organisational models that rely on professional expertise and private funding. Corporatism. So what do Fabians actually do then? Policy research and development, political networking and training, democratic participation and debate, gradual implementation of progressive ideals through normal democratic processes. What don't they do? Well, they don't appear to control world events from the shadows, orchestrate global financial systems, run a secret world government, or control the weather. Oh, probably. When you see political influence, ask yourself what's more likely. 140-year-old secret conspiracy controlling world events, or a really effective political organisation and networking. The evidence, unfortunately, in my book, points pretty clearly to the second option. What do you think? Have I got it completely wrong? I mean, there's loads of people out there writing Substack essays that go on for thousands of words about how bad the Fabians are. But when you dig through those essays, there's fuck all evidence in them. And when I say fuck all, I mean fuck all evidence. It's just, you can't argue against people that are so deep in a conspiracy that everything's a conspiracy, because by your very argument, you are enabling that conspiracy. So why is it such an organisation that persists about it being so secretive and evil? Is it the wolf in sheep's clothing thing? Which is again back to Quintus. You know, observe, watch, wait, but when you strike, strike hard. They've never been shy about that's their methodology. That's the method that they follow. People prefer exciting conspiracy theories to boring political reality. That's the cruel, hard facts. It's easier to blame secret cabals than address complex, systemic issues through democratic engagement. And finally, the most dangerous thing about the Fabians isn't secret world control, it's they've proven gradual, evidence-based political change actually works. They've shown that patient methodical organisation can achieve major political victories over time. And that's genuinely more threatening to political opponents than any conspiracy theory, because it's a model that could be replicated by other movements if they actually put in the work. Like the guy who gets A's in your high school class, he gets them because he puts in the work. And you don't. If you want to get the A's, put in the work. If Fabian's influence worries you, then what's your solution? Vote them out. Support other parties. Encourage other parties to enable that kind of model because it's proven to work. It's not a slow journey, but it's proven to work. 140 years of boring democratic work, and it works. It gets the job done. Nothing stopping anyone else from doing it, but they won't because people want quick fixes. So, in my view, it seems to be exactly what it appears to be. A highly successful progressive political organisation that's been very good at the boring work of democratic politics for 140 years. They're influential because they're effective, not because they're secretive. And they're not secretive at all. None of the people that are Fabians hide the fact they're Fabians. Look, people in the Masons, most of them don't tell you they're in the Masons. Why? Because they're ashamed. It appears that Fabians aren't. And they're currently running the UK government. Yeah, they are. Because they helped Labour win. And they've done it at every time that Labour has won an election in the UK. It's been a Fabian Prime Minister. Every single time. So they've taken 140 years, they've had wins and losses, and they've really not changed the world into a global cabal. I mean, I know I said it would take a while, but they've had 140 years and they've not done it. And nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. I mean, look at what's happening just now in the world. Europe's in tatters. They're fighting amongst each other. Ukraine's hitting targets in other EU nations. You know, they're fighting about sanctions. They can't stop the influx of migrants from colonial Africa. The world is not anywhere near a global government. And the world's policeman seems to have taken the day off to go and see what the hell Venezuela's up to. Because they're fed up. They're fed up trying to police Europe. There's no global organisation running this world. It is a fucking shit show. And it's a shit show of our own making. And if you think there are people organised this, then I don't think there's any hope. Because no one's benefiting here. No one's benefiting. Exactly. Exactly, soldier. Look at the results. Look at the results. Yeah, absolutely. They are, soldier. But there you go. It's maybe not what you expected me to come out with. But I can only be honest. And if I can't find evidence, I can't condemn an organisation for being good at what they do. Can condemn them for not liking their policies or their ideology or thinking they're too extreme. Yeah, I can do all that. But I can't condemn them for being good at what they do because they're getting results. And I can't say the other side's doing any better. Can you? I mean, they're all fighting amongst themselves. There's no chance Labour's going to get beaten again. If we've now got, what, something like 4 different Conservative parties? I mean, it was bad enough that Reform and the Tories couldn't come to an agreement because they could have beat Labour if they'd stood down in certain constituencies and other ones had stood up in others. They could have beaten Labour, but they wouldn't do it. So what's more important to them? Personal gain or their beliefs that their policies are right for the country? Because they share the policies, really. They share the same policies. So you have to say to yourself, their personal gain was more important to them. Or to shaft it to people that they see as slighted them when they were in the Conservative Party. So that's politics. So the right at the moment is a complete disarray. There is nothing there that's going to beat the Labour Party. I said last year when the election had finished, I said that Reform wouldn't even be in the running when it comes to the election in 5 years' time. So we'll see what happens. I might well be wrong. But they're not doing themselves any favours right now, are they? You know, if the Tory party are smart, they would have shut up, licked their wounds, and got down to business behind the scenes. You know, used their political think tanks, started generating a groundswell of opinion, started doing some real work instead of fucking about, which is what they're doing just now. And none of these people are going to do us any good. None of them. Because they don't have our needs and wishes on their agenda. They've got their own. They're just government. And what the governments do, they control the population and they feather their own nest. And you see it happening all the time, regardless of who's in power. There isn't anything ever, and never has been, such a thing as an honest politician. They're all shitbags. So, that's me. I'm done for the night. I hope you found that interesting. You guys kind of dried up in the chat. I'm not, well, we Fat Shug tended to overdo it. Hatchy, a lot of truth being spoken. Thank you, mate. I like that. So, there we go. You know, I'll call out, if something's wrong, I'll call it out. But I'm not calling out people without evidence. I just won't do it. And there's no evidence to say the Fabians are anything other than effective political tools. Hey, maybe Starmer's dad was right. Maybe he was a toolmaker. Doesn't make me like him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not turning to the left. So, there you go. Right. And with that, it's been great for you.